Continuamos con esta cobertura de la 17ª Cumbre de Países del Movimiento No Alineado y tenemos el honor de contar con el canciller de Angola, con el señor George Chicoti. Mr. Chicoti, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So, big expectations in this summit. What is the most important issue that you would like to bring it to that final declaration?
Well, I think we are having a very nice time. I know that our experts have had a little of a problem to come out with a declaration which we're going to approve now, but there are important topics in the declaration.
Such as
the one related to the Great Lakes region, which Angola is presiding. I think there is a commitment of the non-aligned countries to help and contribute with help in terms of consolidating peace and democracy in countries like Burundi, Democratic Republic of Congo, and in Central African Republic and South Sudan. I think these are key issues right now at the United Nations, and it is our challenge to see how well we can help with the governments and people of those countries to make sure that there is stability. I think that was an important issue. But I think the declaration has many other points related to the Middle East, related to Korea, related to ASEAN and South China Sea, but also issues related to the situation in Syria. I think, in the Middle East, everybody's concerned that this conflict is lasting too long. We have terrorism in that region, and it has affected countries. So everybody wants to see an improvement of the situation in Syria, but also in Iraq, to make sure that these terrorist organizations do not have such a big impact on countries. So I think the declaration is also going to
reflect those issues.
An important chapter on that.
Earlier in the day, we have the opportunity to talk to the foreign minister of Gambia.
Yes.
And I was asking him, what about one of the big challenges in Africa? And he mentioned integration.
Well, yes, integration is a challenge of the African Union. As you might as well know, Africa is divided into 5 regions in terms of integration. You have the West African with ECOWAS, you have SADC, you have the Central African states, East African states, and North African states. Naturally, I think that while this is a challenge, it's already a commitment which African states have taken. However, the major problem is how to implement that. It requires resources, and it requires some major political decisions, particularly in terms of the free movement of people and goods, which is something that we're working on. I believe that those are some of the challenges, and I think that's the way forward in terms of Africa. We want better integration, but I think it's important that we also have the resources of our own economies to make sure that we can take decisions and we can implement them with the resources that we have. But if we have to depend on the help of developed countries of who can give us help, then I think the pace will be slower. Now, in the last summit, African countries decided to improve their conditions of contribution to the budget of the African Union. If we succeed in contributing 0.2% of our imports, then we will be able to raise about $1.3 billion, which will then allow the African Union to have enough resources to implement its policies. But I think some major things have already been done. For example, I think we now have a passport, African passport, produced by the African Union, which is ready.
So you can circulate among the different countries.
We will be able to circulate with that document across Africa. It's an important step. So I think there are many things that we can do, but that's the big challenge.
In the case of Latin America, the issue of having high prices commodities, such as the oil, such as the copper, was letting governments, mostly progressive governments, to really improve the quality of life of millions of people. The world economy got into sort of, or whatever you want to call it, recession or slowdown, and therefore they are really much challenged by interest to go back to neoliberal politics. Is that happening in Africa in a way or the other?
Well, I think most countries are going back to a little bit more of discipline. For example, in my own country, Angola, for a long time we based our resources in terms of foreign currency on oil. We produce oil, and that was the major issue. The prices have gone down, so we now realize that we need to diversify our economy. So we're going to produce other metals like gold, iron. We're going to diversify the agriculture so that we import less and we produce more from inside, and we can export a larger quantity of goods to the international market. But at the same time, we need a self-sufficiency policy that will allow us to consume most of the goods. So I think the change is more in terms of a new kind of discipline of looking at what we can do for ourselves and import only what we need. So I think that is the trend in my country, and I do believe that other countries as well. So we need to attract investment through better policies that are done inside. So if that is kind of going to a more neoliberal kind of economics, well, that's what's happening, but I don't think I can classify it that way.
That way.
Yes.
The fact that Venezuela, for the first time in this very country, and for the third time in Latin America and the Caribbean, takes the presidency, what's your reaction?
No, I think we should congratulate Venezuela. We know the challenges that Venezuela has, both socially and politically, but I hope that the government should be capable of leading us very well. I have the impression that the organization of this summit is extremely good, so we should encourage them to do better and make sure that they can solve the internal problems among themselves. They do have a constitution, and that changes is done by elections, so we do hope that even opposition will work with government until they go to the next election and they have a new government. But other than that, I think it's not fair to pressure the government unjustly. I think that they can do things better to avoid a war, to avoid conflict, but when they go to the polls and see who wins the election.
Finally, General Assembly of the UN next week. Any plans to attend the summit?
Yeah, from me I'm going to New York.
Okay, because we're going to New York too, and so I'm sure that we're going to be able to see you and share with you your expectations there too.
Thank you very much. I think we are all going, most of us are going to New York from here, so we do hope that we have a good General Assembly. Naturally, one of the key issues now is the election of the next Secretary General.
Exactly.
Let's hope that when we are in New York, there will be some indications of who will be the next
Secretary General. Mr. Chicoti, thanks very much for joining us. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Estábamos conversando entonces con precisamente el ministro de Relaciones Exteriores de Angola, el señor George Rebelo Chicoti, en esta 17ª cumbre del Movimiento de los Países No Alineados. Regresamos con ustedes.